My name's Omri Dahan. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer, as you mentioned, of Marqeta. I've been here coming up on 10 years now, since a few months after my business partner, Jason Gardner, our founder and CEO, founded the company back in 2010. And before that, had done a few other startups, nothing in fintech. So this is kind of my first foray into fintech. And after 9 or 10 years, I like to joke, this is my last fintech startup. So a very complex and wonderful space, but a very intense experience. So it's great to be here. It's great to have seen the evolution of Marqeta from kind of an idea, an early stage go to market, and now a global fintech powerhouse. So we're excited to be part of that, and happy to be part of today's conversation.
Awesome. And I appreciate that comment about saying your last fintech startup. I just want to leave that undiscussed. Can you talk about, I mean, I assume I know why you're saying that, but can you talk a little bit about, I guess, the complexity, or why you wouldn't get into fintech again?
Yeah, I'm just kidding. I love the space, and I'll probably end up in it for quite some time. But I think that the nature of fintech is, it's unlike other tech where maybe you've got to build software, you got to develop software, you've got to have product market fit, and then you go out and you kind of grow your business. You're talking about plugging into, at least here in the United States, and you see it replicated in other parts of the world, a pretty legacy driven set of financial infrastructure that has both a technology component as well as quite a bit of non-technology componentry. So I'm thinking specifically around the banks, how money moves between banks, how money relates between the banks and the local central bank system, Federal Reserve here in the United States, for example, the regulatory environment. And then what you're trying to do is take that, and then you actually have to manifest all of that in the physical world with plastic, and even things like working on tokenization, which we do a lot of, and fitting into the physical phone, swiping cards, dipping cards, tapping phones. There are seemingly an unending number of opportunities for things to go wrong. And you can only fix so much of that with software. A lot of it, thankfully, you can, but a lot of it you can't. And you've got to get on the phone with people. And sometimes in the old world, you had to get on airplanes with people. And this is just kind of the nature of the business. Being on the other side of a lot of the problems that we had in the early days, just bringing card products to market. I love the complexity now because it's our friend. It keeps competitors out. It creates a moat. It demonstrates wisdom and expertise and knowledge and experience, and that's great. It's great. It's a great place to have been from, right? And not necessarily the thing that I want to continue to do. And thankfully at Marqeta, we've kind of automated a lot of that stuff, so it does get easier over time.
Great, I appreciate that that prelude. So can you talk about what your first impressions were as COVID started, I guess, rolling out, and what were some of your first impressions?
I think like the rest of us, I mean, I was experiencing it as a human being, first and foremost, as a father, as a husband, and family member, and just trying to think about the safety of the family and the safety of Marqeta's family. To be very honest, I think we underestimated. I certainly underestimated the scope of this, and so there was a little bit of a moment where I would look at the numbers and be like, oh, there's only 3 people in Alameda County who have this. Thankfully, we had board members around the world, and a couple in Europe who have said, listen, this thing's coming, and this is what it's going to look like, most likely, and so be prepared. And so from a Marqeta perspective, we did a few things. Number one, obviously made sure our team was healthy and safe, and our team had the right equipment, the right environment from which to work from home. Thankfully, that didn't pose too much of a problem. We got people grounded pretty quickly there, call it a week or two. The second thing we did was reach out to all of our customers, of course, to make sure that they and their families were okay, and that anything that they needed from us was kind of supportive. The third thing was a much more robust exercise in BCP, right? Like, you have these BCP plans, and when you raise money, you gotta dust them off the shelf and show them to everybody. In payments, BCP is a living, breathing thing every day. And so we kind of, we quickly assembled the BCP team that was already in place. We set up a morning meeting every morning. And for those of you who have been through this, and now I suspect most everybody has, BCP is an extraordinary experience, right? Business continuity planning, where you have to really lock down every single variable. I talked a few minutes ago about the complexity and the number of variables at play in any kind of payments experience or fintech company. You know, does your card supplier have enough card stock? Is the card stock supplier that they use okay? Where is that? You know, you have what investors call a highly correlated event where everyone's having the same problem at the same time. How do you make sure that you get to the front of the line so that your customers are served and they have the card stock that they need or the server space that they need? So it was a sequence of events and an unfolding, if you will. But I was super proud of how everybody showed up. People really rose to the occasion, and I think I can say with a lot of confidence that it brought our team much more close together and our company much more close together.
Amazing. So I guess in that context, how did you and the rest of the senior leadership team communicate your plans in the beginning? And how do you make a decision about how transparent to be, how much to share with the rest of the team?
Yeah, you know, you're always trying to make that trade-off in terms of what you can and can't share with the organization. We took a stand this time around that we were going to over-communicate and really increase the transparency profile of all of the things that we were talking about. So first, you know, again, health and welfare of our team, health and welfare of our customers. We talked a lot about our business continuity conversations openly with the company. Kind of anyone was invited to participate in those conversations. At one point, I think there were 30, 40 people on the call. And we have about 450 people in the organization, just for context. I think the other thing that was going on and is still to some extent going on was there were every day was a new report around how catastrophic this was going to be, how many companies in tech were laying people off. And naturally there was some worry, concern, confusion on the part of everybody. And so what we really wanted to do was not be that management team that said, oh, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. Because I don't think that would resonate with our team. And I don't think that had that kind of air of authenticity to it. So what we said was, here's our thought process. Here is the process we're going through. We're looking at our revenue plan. We're looking at our OpEx plan. We're looking at our cash balance. We're looking at our customers. And so we brought everyone into the fold, if you will, everyone into the conversation. And I remember I kicked off a weekly business email to the whole company that I'm still doing now. And there was a section called Managing the Business. And in that section, everybody kind of looked first to see if there was any news about layoffs. That's what people wanted to make sure of first. And in the early days when we didn't have news, we said, I don't have any news, which means not necessarily that there are going to be no layoffs and not necessarily that there are going to be layoffs, but this is the transparent truth, like it or not. And I think that really went a long way with people.
Can you talk to us about this newsletter that you started sending?
Sure. It's interesting. I you know, having done it now for, I'm going to say 15 or 16 straight weeks, one of the things that happens when you're early part of a company and the company's 10 people and 20 people and 50 people is you start assuming that everybody kind of knows what's going on, right? We're all in a meeting, we're all working in one big room together. As you get bigger, you start to realize that the assumptions, experience, context that's in your head as an executive is just not shared by everybody. Not only because they don't have the same points of view, but they just don't have the information, right? And so what surprised me most about this business update, and it's about a page long, 3 or 4 paragraphs, and we go through some kind of interesting customer stories. We go through how the business is doing. We go through upcoming deals that are coming in. A lot of it's very customer focused, since we care a lot about being customer centric in all of our communications. But what surprised me the most was how the very basic of information that kind of I live and breathe every day, and my team lives and breathes every day, was very, very well received, and people would be kind of very effusively grateful for just saying what was going on with the particular customer, or how the executive team were contemplating a big decision. It was surprising in a good way. And so now that's, of course, encouraged me to lean even more into that and share interesting anecdotes, be more transparent about what's going on in the business. And I think people look forward to it. They look forward to it every week.
What day of the week do you send it on?
Thursdays, 4 o'clock.
Okay, great. What organizational changes did you make, Omri, as the shelter-in-place directives came out? How did the organization change and react to that?
I don't think we did a lot of org structure change, if you will. I think from a processes point of view, there has been a little bit of a shift in our business continuity planning process from being, hey, there's that BCP plan, here's that BCP team, to now every team needs to be thinking about this. Every team needs to be baking this into their plan. So I think that's one. I think secondly, there was always this dichotomy between people who kind of worked in HQ versus remote workers. And I'm sure every company that has remote workers has this dynamic, where the remote workers maybe feel a little bit one step behind, right? Or they feel a little bit at a disadvantage. They get on a conference call and you're staring at 7 people in a room that are all in the same room, and you're kind of in your house. This democratized that. This leveled the playing field. And what we found is that with everyone, so to speak, in the same boat, it's brought us even more close together as a culture. We have got to learn more about each other's home lives, spouses, roommates, children. I had brought my 9-year-old son into a call. He wanted to sit in the office and be part of a meeting. And, he said, what do I do? I said, well, here's a notebook, here's a pen, write down any questions you have or any thoughts or any notes. And it was cool. He wrote one question. We were talking about ACH, I think, at the point. He wrote, what is ACH? And so now my 9-year-old son knows a little bit about ACH.
Amazing. Can we talk a little bit more, I guess, about the cultural evolution through this period? You mentioned that people are maybe bringing more of themselves or revealing more of themselves as part of the culture. Can you talk a little bit maybe about how that's making its way throughout the organization?
Sure. I always have held a truth that I learned early in my career to be true, which is, you have your private life and you have your professional life, but both are deeply personal. And to kind of say that your professional life is not personal is to ignore, all of the feelings you have every day at work, the feelings of excitement and joy and frustration and anger and all of those other feelings. And so I think this kind of lifted the veil for a lot of us on that. And, even as things started to open up, we would start to take kind of COVID style walks with each other, 6 feet apart and with the masks and so forth. Whereas in the past, it might be you step into a room and you frame the meeting and you have the meeting and you leave. Now it's more like, how are you doing? How's your family? How's your health? How are your kids? Okay, tell me some interesting story about what's going on. So I think it has brought a layer of relatedness and empathy to our relationships that, it's kind of always there, and maybe you visit it at a happy hour or at an offsite or something like that. It feels much more embedded into the culture now, into the day-to-day now. And, one wonders, is that going to hold up when we go back to some version of normal? I have a feeling that people value this now in a way that they kind of openly value it. And so I think it is going to stay. I think it's going to be part of our culture forever.
Right. That was going to be my next question. If you think that these experiences become additive and become part of the culture going forward, it sounds like they might. I'd like to switch focus maybe from the internal to external and
Sure.
hear a little bit about what you were hearing from customers about their expectations and experiences early on in this process.
Yeah. The word that comes to mind is uncertainty. And again, I suspect we're not the only company that's gone through this, but nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew what was going to happen. You had entire business sectors fall apart overnight. Let's talk about a few of them. Digital banking is a space that we serve. On-demand delivery is a space that we serve. travel is a space that we serve. And so, our travel partners faced and are still facing a very, very tough set of circumstances. And I think in the early days, because of so much uncertainty, everybody kind of felt like, could everything fall apart right now? I think after a few weeks, and we started to see some new behavioral patterns, folks in travel, really started to suffer, in hospitality. Folks in on-demand delivery, however, saw a spike. Digital banking saw a spike. I remember thinking, gosh, so Instacart's a partner of ours, and I remember thinking, if I were on the Instacart management team a year ago, I'd probably be sitting around thinking, all right, how do I get everyone in America to try this product, this amazing delivery product? And you would have
Everybody
never
just stay at home all the time.
just stay. Yeah. If it were just stay at home and just take some groceries delivered. Sad set of circumstances, of course, and no one would ever choose this, but that's what happened. And so we proactively went about engaging with them, obviously, and helping them scale and making sure that wherever they were going to go from a scale perspective, that we were a step or two ahead, just in terms of the databases and the servers and the cards and the operational rigor that we provide them. On the digital banking side, Cash App's customer, and I think we all know, they were part of the distribution of government funds, stimulus funds. Mm-hmm. And so, helping stay very, very close with them to get ready for that and to make sure that when that came in, it went well, was part of the plan. I think the thing that, again, going back to maybe our core theme here around how fintech's a little bit different, how payments is a little bit different, is you have 15 people on these conference calls. You've got people from multiple functions on the customer side, multiple functions on the Marqeta side. Sometimes the bank is involved. Sometimes Visa, MasterCard are involved. And these are complex problems. These are Apollo 13, get the guys back from the other side of the moon type of problems. And it literally feels like that. And I think I've always loved that personally, like that. I get a lot of energy from that. As the company's got bigger, I'm not involved in all of those conversations as much as I would like to. And so middle of March and April, it was literally that every day, 5 times a day. And it was energizing. And I think we showed ourselves, and I think we showed our customers, and I think our customers showed themselves a new level of capability, a new level of possibility that everyone was capable of. But I think in the early days, it was a little bit scary. I'll share one other thought, Zach, which is, I do think that having that human relationship with customers really makes a big difference. I think there were moments in kind of 3rd week, 4th week of March where, man, you just wanted to get on the phone and talk to someone, right? What are you seeing? What are you seeing? What's going on, right? And I think a lot of those conversations were just kind of, hey, we're both in this together and we're both sharing what's going on. And that was kind of the conversation. And so I think having those relationships in place made a big difference for us.
That makes sense. And so you mentioned this theme of uncertainty, particularly in the early days. And it sounds like a lot of just the Apollo 13 mission that you're talking about, sitting with them on the phone with the partners. Were there other things they were looking to Marqeta for in terms to help them sort of smooth over uncertainty? Were they looking to you for any guidance or your view on the market? Were there other ways that you were able to help clients out of that uncertainty? Do you understand what I mean?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think it wasn't like we were there providing macroeconomic advice, and if we were, ours would probably be worth the price you paid for it. But I do think we see a lot of innovation. We see, on any given day, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of developers coding on our platform, working with our platform. And I think having that cross sector of the economy view was helpful. I think to be able to say, well, listen, this is what we're seeing in digital banking, this is what we're seeing in lending, this is what we're seeing in travel, this is what we're seeing from other players in your sector, customer, I think did help. I think given that a lot of our customers outperformed in the last few months, it provided, our ability to kind of share that with some customers and say, hey, look, like the end of the world is not nigh. People are still, using cards and exercising commerce, and I think that was helpful, and being able to give a kind of macroeconomic view through the lens of the business that we do have, through the lens of the hundreds of customers that we have and the multiple segments that we're in. I think secondly, part of that was because we're global, we were seeing some things going on in Europe, some things going on in Australia and Asia, where we could provide a perspective and we could say, listen, this is how others are dealing with it. There was a lot of learning, if I recall, in those early days. And you're in a situation of shared uncertainty, you tend to kind of open up your aperture a little bit more for learning from kind of any walk of life, any corner you can get it from. And we were certainly in that, and we were obviously sharing whatever we could with our customers.
So there's this planning stage, there's this communication and perspective stage. Were there other things that Marqeta did to react to customers' needs during this time period?
Look, I think we use this as an opportunity to strengthen the relationships that we have with our customers. We use this as an opportunity to what I call give, not get. I think one of the first or second of these business updates that I shared was get on the phone, call your customers, don't ask them for a darn thing. Don't ask them for more business, don't ask them for information, nothing. Ask what you can give, ask what they need. And our customer success and program management support teams did that. And I hope that went a long way. I think that I think times like this call for increased exposure of our respective humanity. And I do hope, as a leader, one hopes that that stays, that can become part of how we do business. There's a thing we call the Marqeta magic, and I know it sounds hokey, but for years we've talked about, trying to bring a little bit more of that humanity to our customer relationships and have it not just be about the software, not just be about the product, and not just be about the money. And as we've scaled, it's not obvious that stays, right? I think there have been moments, certainly before March, where we wondered, is that going to be part of the next stage of Marqeta's culture? And I think now it is 100% baked into the DNA for life, thanks to the great team that we have.
And do you think that's scalable? I know it's kind of maybe a brutal way of looking at it, but that Marqeta magic, that really sounds like it's the people, it's the work that they put into the client's relationship and coming up with custom solutions for them. Is that something that can move from 450 people to 4,500 people?
And I sure hope so, because it is the reason that I think a lot of people come to work every day. And I think it is the reason why, it is one of the main reasons why I think we have such strong relationships with our customers. And you look at someone like a Southwest Airlines, and when we used to fly on Southwest Airlines more regularly, like, you felt that culture every time you got on the plane. And they scaled it. I can think of probably half a dozen other examples. And so it's certainly possible to do. We certainly value it. It's not like it's a nice to have. It is a core part of who we are. It's a core part of our executive team. It's a core part of our CEO, Jason's way of seeing the world. And certainly that translates through the rest of us and through the rest of our kind of VP layer and management layer. So I think we're set up for it to scale, but it's not like something that you just set and forget. You've got to be committed to that in every decision that you make. And we're certainly trying.
That makes a lot of sense. Omri, I want to go back to something you had said a little bit earlier about, I guess, the pandemic's impact on different sectors, since you guys do work across a variety of different sectors. Can we talk about specifically for on-demand delivery? You mentioned that was saw a nice spike. Can you talk about some of the dynamics there about what was happening and how you guys work with them, I guess, to continue to scale that?
Sure. I think you've always got, again, as I said earlier, you've got a software component and technology component. You've got a kind of, laws of physics component with things like plastic and logistics. You've got, even, by the way, even MasterCard and Visa were having challenges, intermittent challenges throughout this process, throughout the last 4 months. And so I think just watching, call it, I don't know, let's call it 10,000, maybe it was 100,000 or more folks who were maybe getting laid off from one sector, Maybe Uber's driver, the Uber driver count went down. Maybe you can't get as many rides. People are sheltering in place. Where are you going to go? Well, food delivery is a perfect place. So now all of a sudden, there was an article that Instacart at one point was onboarding 300,000 new shoppers in a very, very short period of time. Well, those shoppers need cards, they need accounts, they need, QA, right? And it wasn't just Instacart, right? You think about some of our other customers in the space, DoorDash, Postmates, et cetera. You had this massive shift in the labor dynamic, and people were coming on board, and then maybe they would try it for a couple of weeks, and then they would say, you know what, this isn't for me, or I may move back to my parents' house in Ohio, and now that card's gone, and I have a new person coming in. So there was just a lot in motion, and I think the concept of a kind of war room / daily stand up / everybody be ready at any given time to have these conversations. Again, it sounds a little melodramatic. It was quite melodramatic. And I think as we head back into a situation where the country may be locking down a little bit more, as we head into the late summer and fall, I don't think that we will need the daily stand up and the war room kind of intense, everybody get in a room and sort this out thing, because we've put into place a lot of these things in a more scalable way. But I do anticipate that the delivery space is going to continue to see, we've seen some consolidation in there since this started, and I think we'll see more consolidation. But with that consolidation, what is often not reported on is the micro efforts that those teams are making to scale and to add efficiency and automation, right? The little tweaks that Grubhub is doing, the little tweaks that Postmates is doing, that Instacart is doing, that Uber Eats is doing, to really turn those into businesses that have positive unit economics, that have the ability to scale at a unit basis. It's a little bit of a quiet story, but they are making those changes. It's great to watch. We get to see it from the inside. And I think you'll see those businesses come out much stronger.
Interesting. And I'm trying to hold this image of Marqeta, where like there's this, on one hand, you have this huge uncertainty in certain industries like travel being impacted. And then you have on-demand delivery, which sounds like it's continuing to scale, where, during this time of great uncertainty, they're actually, they're seeing incredible growth. So it's like, I'm just trying to hold those two things together. In terms of Marqeta and managing your portfolio of clients and stuff like that, did you have to reallocate resources throughout this process, I guess, to some of the sectors that needed more attention, and maybe and lay off or back off some of the others that weren't?
A little bit, not a ton. We're pretty scaled up there in terms of service orientation, support structure there. I think certainly just in terms of mind share on the executive team and on the people who are facing customers, the teams that face customers, for sure, right? We had to kind of be thinking about that and devoting more of our attention there. The other thing that was going on was, you start to think about things like M&A. You start to think about things like new verticals. Who's going to win? We had a team that spent some time thinking about, okay, don't think about 2020. Think about 2022 and 2023 and 2024 with, the trends that you're seeing now. Lever those out over the course of the next few years. What nuggets of insight might you find, and how might we evolve our strategy to kind of meet that? And we've done that, and that's been pretty cool.
Interesting. And during this time period, we've talked a lot about servicing existing customers. Did you guys onboard new customers during this time period? And what was that like amidst this craziness?
Yeah, we've actually had the best sales year to date that we've ever had this year. Which, believe me, again, depths of March, you're like, all right, well, that's it for this year, right? We're done. But no, it's come back strong. I think we've been able to pick up customers from competitors. I think we've been able to pick up new customers throughout this period. We also onboarded, I think since middle of March, we've onboarded like 60 or 70 people, employees. Like we're just kind of on a hiring tear. Maybe it's even more by now. But yeah, we've been able to pick up quite a few new customers. Some of those customers came on board and then pretty quickly afterwards had to pause onboarding because of COVID. I can think of a few that come to mind here, but several of them are converting from other platforms onto our platform. So they come with existing business, a lot more predictable, that kind of thing. we position ourselves as kind of innovation at scale, right? Yes, we can serve the two people in a garage with the big idea. We're probably best to serve the ones that have scaled before and have a higher likelihood of scaling this time. Like I said, the complexity involved in scaling payments programs is only something that you kind of see when you're in it and a little bit in the rearview mirror. And that's where I think we thrive. And so those are the types of folks that have been coming to us.
And what does that look like for a new customer that's come in and then I guess decides to slow things down once they get a feel for what kind of resources it's going to take or what kind of environment they're launching into? Like, what does that look like? They just press pause, or they like? Can you just take us through sort of what that process looks like?
Yeah, I mean they'll likely press pause on either the integration piece or the marketing spend, right? There were a lot of people who would integrate it because it's pretty easy to integrate, but then, you getting ready to, push full throttle on the marketing spend. You're like, maybe I don't need to do that right now. Maybe I need to pause and wait. And so that's not a problem for us. We have a process, and they can sit on the sidelines and sort it out. And if we can be helpful in that time, we obviously reach out and try to do that. But several of them have now started to unfreeze and get started again. So we're excited about that.
Awesome. And I guess, as a way of kind of pulling everything together we've discussed up until now, do you see this as a new normal? Is this, do you and Marqeta, are you thinking like this is just the way we operate from here on out? Like, how are you guys responding, I guess, to thinking about like the short-term future?
Yeah, look, I think that the simple answer is we don't know, but if it is, then we're ready. I think that's the kind of orientation that we have, which is we've got to be ready for anything. I think I'm not the first person to say that you've had multiple years of advancement happen in a few months, whether it's digital transactions or working from home or the need for cloud services or what have you. But I do think that what we've seen something that is possible that we didn't realize was possible because we were forced to. And now I think some of us are liking it. I think some of us want to work from home more often. I think the flexibility of the workforce has been a transformational experience. I think the ability to collaborate remotely has been an extraordinary learning. I mean, we're running offsites virtually. We're running happy hours virtually. We're running big strategy sessions virtually. We've got people, we've got, the consulting firms that we might rely on from time to time doing things virtually for us. So everything that we could do in person, maybe not everything, but feels like a lot of things, we're now figuring out that we can do virtually. And so I think that leaves us ready for wherever this goes.
Amazing. Omri, thank you. We have time for one question. You okay if I pull in somebody from the audience?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
Great. Shuman's coming on.
Hello.
Hey, Shuman. Yep, you're on.
Great. Omri, nice to hear your talk. It's been some months since we last caught up, but I was curious about your what's next for Marqeta. You continue to grow relationships with customers during the pandemic, as you described. So where do you see things going, big picture wise?
Look, we are in really still the first inning, right? Of not just the changes to kind of digital transactions and digital commerce, but this idea of modern card issuing that we spotted several years ago and have seen a number of commerce innovators, tech giants, digital banks, and now we're really starting to see some of the top card issuers, some of the big banks migrate towards this idea of modern card issuing. If you think about a $45 trillion volume TAM, I think in the United States it's closer to around $10 trillion of TAM. We're just getting started. And so I think what we've really tried to focus on in the last couple of years is establishing big beachheads in huge verticals where we can show that we actually have a platform that is not only can withstand the scale of a large bank or a large tech giant or a growing large digital bank like a Cash App, but we're actually better, higher quality, more flexibility, and at a more economically reasonable value equation. And so we've done that now in the major verticals that we care about. And so our teams are focused on continuing to penetrate those verticals, continue to prove ourselves out, continue to bring on customers, and continue to bring the platform to the world's dreamers. I mean, if you think about the products that are on our platform, I'm thinking about Cash App, I'm thinking about Instacart, I'm thinking about Klarna and Affirm. And I'm not trying to like kind of just brag through the logo list here. I'm really trying to say like, these are product developers who dreamt up amazing, crazy things that 5 years ago weren't even possible. And we are extremely inspired by that. And there's a whole nother, probably 2 or 3 generations of innovators and builders who are getting ready to do the next version of that. And our job is to make sure that they can do it on Marqeta. And our job is to make sure that they can scale it at Marqeta. And that when the United States needed Instacart to deliver its food to them for several weeks on end, we were quietly in the background making sure that that was possible. Like, I feel enormously proud of that. And we want to do that again and again and again, in bigger and bigger ways for people who have the biggest and big, the biggest dreams that they can think of. So that's what we're focused on. I'm sorry I don't have any more specifics around which verticals and which customers and how many dollars, but I know that you're probably good at figuring that out.
Great. Well, we'll stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
With that, Omri, I just want to thank you for addressing our inaugural Tearsheet Resilience Conference. It was great talking to you and great hearing about all the things you went through with Marqeta.
Thanks, Zach. It's always a pleasure. Appreciate your time.